American sitcoms have been popular all across the world for a very long time, going as far back as the 1920s when they were first being broadcast on radio. But most of us would agree that this genre really took its form in the 1980s when we were first introduced to shows such as Cheers, The Cosby Show, The Golden Girls, Married with Children, which today actually still holds the record of being the longest running live sitcom on Fox TV, and very closely followed by ABC's Growing Pains. These shows captivated viewers and gave the rest of the world a glimpse of what happens in the average American household. But what we didn't know was that lurking in the background were little stars in the making, and that their experience of growing up in the midst of all of this would have such a lasting impact that it basically determined what they wanted to do with the rest of their lives. And one of these little stars was Robin Thicke. Robin had an extraordinary childhood where he got to witness the glitz and the glam of Hollywood firsthand, and he knew that this is what he wanted to do with the rest of his life from a very, very young age. But he didn't realize that in Hollywood, you have to make a choice between the good and the bad, and if you choose wrongly, Hollywood can swallow you whole. In this video, we'll look into his childhood, we'll look into his career, his family, and of course, we'll be taking a deep dive into the song that gave him all the success that he had ever dreamed of. But before I start, I just need to make you aware that in this video, we'll be talking about substance abuse and sexual misconduct. Now, with that being said, let's get into it. Robin Allen Thicke was born on the 10th of March 1977 in LA to parents Gloria Loring and Alan Thicke. Both his parents were very involved in the entertainment industry, which meant that his life was pretty lush, and he very much grew up in the thick of Hollywood. His mother was a musician and actress known for playing Liz Chandler in Days of Our Lives for 6 years between 1980 and 1986. She and singer-actor Carl Anderson performed the duet Friends and Lovers, which reached number 2 in the Billboard Hot 100 charts in 1986. His father, Alan Thicke, was a musician, actor, entertainer. He was basically the jack of all trades. And Alan was an extremely charismatic person. He knew this and he took full advantage of it. I mean, he grew up in a small Canadian mining town where he was crowned homecoming king and then went on to become the king of talk shows in Canada. In 1975, he did Face the Music. In 1976, he did First Impressions. And also, in the 1970s, he became a regular guest host on the Alan Hamble Show, a daytime show on Canadian TV. And it was so well received that when this show came to an end in the 1980s, it was replaced by the Alan Thicke Show, where he interviewed celebrities and showed off his musical skills by performing songs. This show got its own primetime spin-off called Prime Cuts. And then in 1983, he figured that he wanted to get into American TV, and he did. He was signed to do a US syndicated late-night talk show called Thick of the Night. This was heavily promoted prior to broadcast as a competitor to NBC's The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson. But Thick of the Night didn't do well. Apparently, American audiences just didn't get his sense of humor, and the show was scrapped within a year of being broadcast. But Alan Thicke also had a very extensive career in composing music. He often collaborated with his wife Gloria on projects and wrote the themes for the popular sitcoms such as Different Strokes, and also provided the vocals for this, The Facts of Life, which Gloria sang. He also wrote a number of TV game show themes, including The Wizard of Oz, for which he also sang the vocal introduction, The Joker's Wild, Celebrity Sweepstakes, The Diamond Head Game, Animal Crack-Ups, which he co-wrote with his brother Todd Thicke, Blank Check, and the original theme of Wheel of Fortune. And then one day, Alan goes into a meeting to pitch an idea for a show. And the people there liked his idea, but the producer Neil Marland was like, hey, we're kind of working on another show right now, And we want someone who is a father figure, who's gonna be funny, but someone who can also be like a bit stern when needed. And we think that you'd be a really good fit for that character. Would you like to audition for it? And Alan was like a bit taken back by this. He'd never thought of acting, but he was like, okay, sure. So he went in for the audition and he got the role. This is when the rest of the world was properly introduced to Alan Thicke. We got to know him as Jason Seaver, a psychiatrist who moved his practice into his Long Island, New York home so that his wife, Maggie, could resume her career. And everyone completely adored him. Growing Pains aired on September 1985, and it was the 80s version of a mega success. It aired for 7 seasons, and it just showed a nice, relatable family, and it brought the humor into the important social issues that people faced. And Alan Thicke's portrayal of Dr. Seaver played a huge role in making the show the global success that it became. And from what I gather when I hear people talk about Alan in the interviews and when they talk about the show, is that Alan Thicke became America's father. But his first love was music, and he continued to make a name for himself in Hollywood, not just as an actor or a TV host, but as a musician. So my point with all of this is to show you that Alan was a very famous and a very successful man. And the character that he portrayed on TV, it wasn't really fake. I mean, that was him in real life. So the rest of his family looked up to him as well. Okay, maybe not his wife because he got divorced and remarried twice. Apparently he was a bit of a ladies' man, and he also liked to smoke the herb a bit in his spare time. But anyway, his family really adored him, and they really wanted to follow his footsteps, especially Robin. Now, he was exposed to a lot of creativity and Hollywood from a really young age, and he fully embraced it. He was drawn to music and creativity, and he started taking piano lessons just so he could explore his musical talent. An example of how awesome his childhood was is how he recalls coming back from school, and David Foster was there with Kevin Costner and Whitney Houston, and they were just using his dad's piano, just working on the song, I'll Always Love You. Now, the original version of the song was released in 1974 by Dolly Parton, who has earned some pretty substantial royalties from these guys. But I want you to imagine what witnessing something like this, just being put together in your living room, does to you as a child. The song sold 24 million copies worldwide, making it the best-selling single of all time from a female solo artist. Now imagine as a child seeing something like this being created in your own home. Now, that's not even the best story that I've heard about Robin's childhood. He knew that he wanted to be famous, and he knew it from a very, very young age. But there was something that was very specific about Robin that set him apart from other children that had the same background as him. And that was his complete love for the black culture. This came through in the way that he spoke, the way that he dressed, and it definitely came through in his taste in music. So Robin would go to Hollywood parties, he liked to get down and network, and one day he went out with some of his friends from the cast of Beverly Hills 90210, as you do. So he's kind of wandering around and he sees these 3 black guys and he kind of likes their whole vibe. So he goes up to them, he asks them what they did, and they told him that they were musicians. So he's like, oh cool, I'm also into singing. So he just literally just starts singing to them, like in the middle of a Hollywood party. These guys loved his style, and not long after that they started their own little R&B group called As One. So the group really wanted to put themselves out there, and they decided that they needed to put together a demo. So Robin, at 14, goes up to his father and says, "Dad, I need $1,000 to put together a demo." And his father just immediately shuts him down. He really supported Robin with his choice of wanting to be involved in music and was happy to support him with anything he needed in terms of the technical side of making music. But he absolutely refused to give him money to cut his first demo. But luckily for Robin, one of his other bandmates, his godfather, was 6-time Grammy Award winning Al Jarreau, and they went to him and asked him for the money, and he gave it to them. So the group made a 3-song demo, and they didn't manage to get a deal out of it, but it did find its way to Tricky Stewart's desk. Tricky is today a very sought after music writer and producer. He's written for Mariah Carey, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, and Rihanna. I mean, he produced the song Single Ladies for Queen Bee. For goodness sake, this man is a big deal. But at this point, he was also 17 and sort of trying to figure his way around the industry. So he reaches out to them. And just to remind you again, Robin's only about 14 at this point, and his bandmates are a couple of years older than him. So Tricky reaches out to them and he's like, "Did you guys like write all of this music?" And they're like, "Yeah, we wrote it." And he's like, "Okay, cool. I like it. I'd really love to work with you guys." So they were like, "Okay, let's do something." So they basically started working with him. Robin started producing music, and he basically just kind of starts to pull away from his father's blanket. Like, this kind of started to change things up a little bit for him. So also around about this time, Robin goes to a teen club called Ballistics, and he lays his eyes on a young Miss Paula Patton. At this point, Paula was 15. She was born to Joyce Nee van Reyden, a school teacher, and Charles Patton, a lawyer. Her mother is Caucasian and she is of German and Dutch descent, and her father is African American. I mean, Paula has a very interesting perspective on race. She has recently spoken out about how she feels about being called biracial, and she feels like it's a term that is used by people who want to distance themselves from being black. So she says that when she was very young, her mom had that conversation with her and said, "The world is going to first and foremost see you as a black woman, and you need to fully embrace that." And so she did. Her family apparently lived across the street from the 20th century lot, and she was very passionate about films. She went to Alexandra Hamilton High School, where she was always involved in school plays. So at 15, she's in Ballistics and she locks eyes with Robin. And he walks up to her, he asks her for a dance, she accepts, and as they're walking towards the dance floor, he just starts serenading her with Jungle Fever by Stevie Wonder. So he just kind of like straight off the bat makes it clear that I'm no ordinary white dude, and she likes it. So they apparently didn't really date until about 2 years later in 1993. Their relationship though did have its struggles right from the beginning. Paula was very involved in black student activism. She was the president of the Black Student Union. So when her problem came around, she said to Robin that she preferred to go alone, and that was because of her role in the Black Student Union. And she didn't want people knowing that she was dating a white guy. Yowza. So she kept their relationship a secret for a while. Robin just started spending a lot of time in the studio, way more time in the studio than he was spending at school. And no, this was not done with his father's permission. He did end up getting suspended for this, and he just gave someone $300, and that person gave him a B, and he was allowed to come to his high school graduation, and all of his classmates were very shocked. They had not seen him in ages. And yeah, he managed to get through high school that way. But straight after graduation, he had now fully immersed himself into music. He moved out of his parents' house when he was about 17, and this was around about the same time that he met Brian McKnight. Robin made such an impression on Brian that he invited him to co-write a song with him called Anyway, which was featured on Brian's second album, I Remember You. So Robin had made quite a good impression on Brian, and they were spending so much time together that people actually started to refer to Robin as Brian McWhite. So Brian ended up introducing Robin to an acquaintance of his called Jimmy Levine, and he basically helped Robin land his first recording contract with Interscope Records with Jimmy Levine. Jimmy is an American entrepreneur, a music proprietor, and a record executive. So as already mentioned, Robin had moved out of his parents' home, and at 17 he had already started making a living by writing music and producing it. So Paula graduated from Alexander Hamilton High School and then started college at the University of California, Berkeley, transferring from University of Southern California's film school after her first year to study film. Shortly after completing her studies, she won a 3-month assignment making documentaries for PBS. This led to her working as a production assistant in TV documentaries and for Howie Mandel's talk show. By 2000, she was producing segments of medical diaries that aired on Discovery Health Channel. So she soon came to the realization that this isn't actually what she wanted to do with her life. She wanted to be an actress. So at 25, she started taking acting lessons and she started her entire career from scratch. So by age 25, Robin had pretty much become an accomplished music producer and writer, but he hadn't released any of his own music. And he had some songs that he created, but he didn't have a brand. So he went up to Jimmy and just gave him some songs, and he's actually admitted that these songs were kind of like B-grade songs, and Jimmy was like, yeah, we'll put out an album for you, but we're just not gonna spend any money promoting this album. And Robert was like, okay, let's just kind of shelve it for now and I'll come back with something better later. But then he just went straight back into spending all of his time writing and producing music for other people. He was very heavily involved in albums such as Maya's Fear of Flying. He co-wrote Lovers on My Side on Brandy's debut album. He also wrote for 3T's Brotherhood and collaborated with Jordan Knight, Jimmy Jam, and Terry Lewis on several songs in Jordan Knight's 1999 self-titled album, including the Billboard Top 10 hit Give It To You. So his contract with Interscope came to an end as well. And at this point, Robin also started thinking to himself that I'm actually not also doing what I really want to be doing. He didn't want to be the studio head, the guy behind the scenes. He wanted to be the star. So he started writing music for himself and really putting a lot of effort into it, hoping that he can get a chance to meet up with someone that can give him a chance. So one day, a friend and a business associate who worked for Arista Records calls him and says, hey, we need a few songs. And by we, he meant that he and Andre Harrell. So Andre Harrell had just moved to LA to start his own record company with Babyface. If you don't know who Andre Harrell is, I do go into this a bit more in my P. Diddy videos. He was a very prominent music executive and overall media powerhouse, and actually was one of the first black men to really become successful as someone who was working in the background of the American music industry. Him, L.A. Reid, and Russell Simmons were dominating the industry and just causing all sorts of disruption between the 1980s and the 1990s. So anyway, Robin's friend was an A&R for Arista Records, and at this point, L.A. Reid was the CEO of Arista Records, and him and Babyface were a working duo. They were kind of more like kindred spirits. They're just like behind some of the most incredible music. Their A&R, Pete Farmer, was basically tasked with getting Andre Harrell settled in LA. So Pete took Andre to Robin's house so that they could get some tunes for their new artist. So Robin sits down with them and he starts playing the music and singing it so that he could sell it to them. And then Andre is like, wait, hold on. I like this. Have you ever thought of being an artist? And Robin is like, well, as a matter of fact, you know what? Yes, I would like to become an artist, and I do have my own music that I can play for you today. So Robin starts singing and playing his own songs, and Andre Harrell is just like, let's scrap my previous idea. I want this guy to be my artist. So Robin found himself in Jimmy Levine's office signing a new record deal under Andre Harrell. So Robin and Andre started putting together Robin's album. And Robin has said that Andre Harrell is the first person who actually saw him as a star, and he really gave him so much confidence. So when they started putting this album together, Robin was just like ridiculously excited. He was like, this is his time. He was gonna be like John B on steroids. Like, his style of music was very raw, soulful R&B music.
You say you love me first, yeah. Having my own desires, when in love. Woo, come on now. Come on now. Days, so I can see. Now I know I am free, and I am running back to you. I see you standing there for me. My arms are open wide, and I don't have to cry no more. Woo!
So Robin remembers having a listening party, and it was Halloween, and he remembers being in his house. Seal was there, Mariah Carey was there, apparently Naomi Campbell was in the balcony just hanging out listening to the music. And everyone was just completely blown away by his talent. There was just this big buzz around his music. And then his album was released in October 2002, and his debut single, When I Get You Alone, was a track that sampled Walter Murphy's A Fifth of Beethoven. And do you guys remember that song, Brand New Jones? I really liked that song, but the album didn't do very well. It was critically acclaimed, but it didn't really manage to sell any records. So this big moment that he thought that he was going to have, this big moment that everyone expected him to have, it didn't happen. And he found himself sitting there thinking, oh my God, what the fuck am I gonna do? Robin has spoken about how he was struggling with Paula's career. The fact that she'd gone from being a small filmmaker to being someone who would sometimes find herself in positions where she had to have sex scenes, that didn't sit well with him. Paula was doing everything in her power to show him that she was present in their relationship and was doing all she could to support him in his career. She was helping him with writing music. She appeared in his video. She was actually on the cover of Robin's album. But Robin was in a very dark place. He'd even turned to yoga for stress relief. But unfortunately, this is also the time when alcohol started to become a factor in his life. Okay, so after the album A Beautiful World was released, Robin was feeling pretty deflated. So he turned to writing music again. and he wrote his feelings during this time. It was kind of a way for him to sort of make sense of all the feelings that he was going through at the time, to make sense of all the doubt that he was feeling. And he actually worked with some pretty big artists during this time as well. He wrote for Mary J. Blige, Pink, and he was actually involved in the 2004 Usher Confessions album. And he wrote that song, Can You Handle It? And you know, the female singing the background vocals, that's Paula. I couldn't believe it. So outside of supporting her man in his career, she had a lot going on with her own stuff. She was auditioning and she got her first role in the 2005 romantic comedy Hitch alongside Will Smith. And that same year, she landed a small part in the drama film London. And then in 2006, she appeared alongside Outcast members Andre Benjamin and Big Boy in the musical film Idlewild. And then things got pretty interesting for her from that point onwards, because in 2006, she landed her first big break. She landed the female lead role of Claire Kutchever in the science fiction thriller Deja Vu, acting alongside Denzel Washington. The film received mixed reviews from critics, but was a box office hit, grossing over 180 million worldwide. And that was it for Paula. After that, it was just like film after film after film. She turned into a bit of an overnight sensation. And this is when Robin decided to put pen to paper, and he wrote the song Lost Without You. So in this song, he sings about his partner, Paula, and he's just basically asking her to reassure him and just make him feel good. Tell him that he's in love. Tell him that she loves him. Anything really to make him feel better about himself. So Robin's team were like, okay, let's try this again. So Jimmy and Andre booked an appointment with Pharrell. So they take Robin to the studio and they're like, listen, this guy, he is a super talent, but we just can't get him to connect with people. And we need help from someone who can help us get a #1 hit. Like, he's capable of doing it, but for some reason he isn't. So Robin had actually bought the song Lost Without You as well, and he performs this for Pharrell. And he was pretty much signed to Star Trek the next day. And the first thing that they changed about him was his look. They were like, okay, let's forget about the music writer who sits in the studio all day and hides behind the music. You're now a smooth R&B vocalist, and you happen to be dating one of the hottest black women in Hollywood. You need to own that. So if you're going to pull this off, you need to have that big dick energy. And Robin was just like, okay, cool. He was in. So they pulled together the album, and the lead single was titled Wanna Love You Girl, featuring Pharrell. This was released in August 2005, and it garnered some attention, mostly in the UK. And then the album was released in October 2006, and this was titled The Evolution of Robin Thicke. And he called it this because this was the time of his life where he had to really dig deep to try and figure out whether he was even meant to be a musician at all. The single Lost Without You was released next, and in this video it's him and Paula, and the chemistry is insane. The two looked like they were just basically feeding off each other, and Robin had finally hit the mark. The song reached number 14 on the US Billboard Hot 100 and number 1 on the Billboard's Hot R&B and Hip Hop songs. The third single, Can You Believe, is actually one of my go-to songs even today when I've got the blues. This song peaked at number 15 on the US Billboard Hot R&B and Hip Hop songs, and at number 99 on the Billboard Hot 100. Not long after that, Got to Be Down was released as the album's fourth single. And another really good song that was actually in his first album is a song called Shooter. And this song is actually based on a true story when he was one of the hostages that was held up in a bank robbery. He was going away at 18. He was going away with Paula for a romantic weekend at his father's ranch, and he just wanted to make a stop at the bank to withdraw some money. The rest of it is in the song, basically word for word. So he receives a call from a guy called Lil Wayne. So Wayne calls him and he's like, I love your music and I think that your style is pretty cool. And Robin is also like, I heard Go DJ. I'm a huge fan of your work as well. So they're like, okay, let's do something together. And apparently Lil Wayne wanted to do a verse for the song Shoot. And he did. And not only was that in the second album, but this was pretty much the beginning of their really cool friendship. And they've made some really awesome music since then. I mean, the song Tie My Hands is even today still one of my favorite songs of all time. So Robin's music was finally doing its thing. I would say that this is probably the closest that he's ever felt to being that 14-year-old boy again, the one who was so sure of himself that he would just go to a party and walk up to some strangers and start singing for them, and then he was just like, okay, cool, I can breathe again, I'm the shit now. And then Paula just took things to the next level. In 2010, it was announced that Paula would succeed Sharon Stone as a new full-time assistant district attorney on the NBC crime drama series Law and Order Special Victims Unit. Then she was cast in the lead female role in the action film Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. So her role in Law and Order Special Victims Unit was reduced to just one episode. Mission Impossible was released on December 16, 2011 and was a critical and commercial success, grossing around $700 million worldwide. This was huge, and I personally think that this messed with Robin's head a little bit, because he was off promoting his music and she was off shooting films with other like really high profile celebrities, and she'd be gone for months on end. But then a really interesting opportunity came out from this. So Robin was singing at Chris Paul's wedding and he met Kevin Hart. So he starts talking to Kevin about how he's like a huge fan of his work and how he's just like seen his special. He just starts imitating Kevin. And Kevin, bless him, he thinks that this is the most hilarious thing that he's ever seen. So he's just laughing the whole time. And then about a month later, Robin gets a call and it's Kevin's team. And they're like, Kevin is working on a show and he would like to know if you're interested in being a part of it. And this was, of course, The Real Husbands of Hollywood. So if you're watching this, hopefully you've seen that show. If not, then I urge you to go and find it and watch it. It's an American reality TV parody that originally aired on BET from January 15, 2013. It follows the daily lives of Kevin and his friends, each playing a fictionalized version of themselves as they venture through their surreal lives in Hollywood. His friends on the show are Boris Kojo, Nelly, Dwayne Martin, BJ Smoove, Nick Cannon, and Robin Thicke. So what all these guys have in common is that they're all married to women who are more successful than they are, and they unfortunately have to put up with Kevin Hart, who's just a big asshole. The whole thing was intentionally shot like Bravo's The Real Housewife franchise. And did I mention that it's really funny? Because it really is. It's hilarious. Robin Thicke, he plays his character so well. Like, he's the only white dude in the group and he acts like he's more of the black culture than anybody else in the group. Like, he just looks like this is it. That's his reality. He can't be that good at acting. So Robin just continued to make a lot of music, and in 2008 he released the album Something Else, which went on to be certified gold by the RIAA. Then he released Sex Therapy, The Session in 2009, which was also certified gold. We had Love After War in 2011, and one theme that just came across really loudly in all his music was sex. We had a lot of it. And this is a guy who writes his life. So it was like, Paula, sweetheart, are you okay? Just blink twice if you need help, please. So Robin and Pharrell were at the studio working on his 6th studio album, and they basically hid in the studio for days. And on the one day, Robin says to Pharrell that he really wanted to make like a feel-good song. So they did, and by the end of the day, half the people in the building were in that studio with them, dancing their asses off to what they had come up with. And apparently Alan Thicke had also just popped in early in the day just to see his son and say hi, but he stayed behind and he was there as the song was being made. Robin just remembers this being a really, really fun day in the studio. So they also wanted to get T.I. on the song. And Tank recalled in his podcast R&B Money that he was with T.I. in another studio somewhere else. And then someone from T.I.'s team came in and asked T.I. if he could do a verse for a Robin Thicke song. And then T.I. was like, okay, let me hear it. So he listens to the song and he's like, okay, turn on my microphone. And then he listens to the song again, and then he just does the whole verse from start to finish without even writing it down at all, sends the song back, and that was it. So this song, Blurred Lines, was released on the 26th of March 2013. And the actual album Blurred Lines was released on the 30th of July 2013. And while they were still working on the album, Robin Thicke said he remembers that Jimmy Levine called him and said he'd heard the song Blurred Lines, and he was like, this is it. You're gonna be huge. So the music video for Blurred Lines was directed by Diane Martel. She was the director for pretty much all of Mariah Carey's songs. She's worked with Sierra, Queen Bee, Alicia Keys, and Pink. So she's worked with women who are quite comfortable in their skin. With Blurred Lines, there are 2 versions of the song. There's the edited and the unrated. And in both versions, you see Robin Thicke, T.I. and Pharrell sort of hanging around the models. The models are Emily Ratajkowski, Ellie Evans, and Jessie Mbengu. I'm sorry if I pronounced those names badly. They're playing with animals. There's like some cycling involved. There's just like all sorts of weird stuff going on, and they're kind of being like oogled at by these guys. Is that a word? Oogled. I don't know if that's a word, but yeah, they were oogling at the models. And just after a day of being released, the video had hit over 1 million views, which doesn't seem like a big deal today, but 10 years ago, that was a huge deal for a music video. It was unheard of. The lyrics of the song are what seem to be a man and the woman who are somewhere, and there seems to be a dance floor, and based on the way that the woman is dancing, the man seems to be under the impression that this woman wants to engage in a hookup. And the things that are being said in the song are just like, they're pure filth. It's like at some point, there's hair pulling, there's body parts, just all sorts of stuff that like kids should have never been exposed to. But anyway, the song is saying that the girl comes across as though she's a good girl, but then he knows that she knows that he knows that they know. And before you judge anyone that was into the song when it was first released, a few years prior to that, there was a song that was called Just Dance by Lady Gaga. And in this song, Lady Gaga is talking about being drunk in a nightclub, and she doesn't even know where her phone is or where her keys are. Today, a song like that would not go down very well in society where a woman is in a situation like that. It would be seen as very dangerous behavior to be promoting to teenage girls. But this was Lady Gaga's debut single, and it is still one of the best-selling singles of all time. So this was a time when being raunchy was a thing. We just hadn't seen it at that level coming from men on one of the biggest songs on radio. So Blurred Lines was huge. It spent 12 consecutive weeks at the top of the US Billboard Hot 100, making it the longest running single of 2013 in the United States. In June 2018, the song was certified diamond by the RIAA. It became one of the best-selling singles of all time, with sales of 14.8 million, simultaneously breaking the record for the largest radio audience in history. The song was nominated for awards including a Record of the Year, the Best Pop Duo Group Performance at the 56th Annual Grammy Awards. Robin had finally gotten the thing that he pretty much been chasing his entire life. He had finally broken records. He had the song. He was no longer just Alan Thicke's son, or just Paula Patton's husband, or the white dude who's trying to break through the R&B music scene. He was Robin Thicke in his own right. But little did he know that his whole life was about to be turned upside down. In April 2013, roughly about a month after the song was released, one blogger branded it as a rape song. And about 2 months later, Trisha Romano of the Daily Beast labeled it as rapey. And this sparked a fire in the media industry, and people started listening to it more closely. And as the song grew bigger and bigger, feminist activists and women rights groups from all over the world were like, what the f***? And then Robin and Pharrell just kind of rolled with the punches, and in August, Miley Cyrus performed the song with Robin Thicke at the MTV Music Awards. And I was watching this play live on TV, and I have watched the MTV Awards for many, many years, and I can honestly say that that was the worst live performance that I have ever seen on MTV. And to me, it also seemed like she was just being used as like some sort of PR crisis management tool. Like, it's like they were like, this is her, this is the girl that we're referring to in the song. Like, she's got her ass like literally just pressed upon his junk the whole time. She's groping him, and her tongue is just all over the room. It's everywhere you look. It's just, you can't get away from it. And honestly, this performance, it kind of broke the internet. It was generating over 306,000 tweets per minute, which was completely unheard of at the time. And according to Rolling Stone magazine, this was bigger than the blackout and the Super Bowl. And they were so happy. According to Paula, they apparently went out to celebrate that night, and they were seeing this as a very successful performance. But there was nothing really to celebrate. This was all just the shock effect. Everyone was talking about it, yes, but there was nothing good that was being said about that performance. And everyone was just like, there was no sign of talent in any way, shape or form. At the awards ceremony of celebrating people who are talented in music, not people who are talented at shocking. And Paula said that she woke up the next day and there were loads of texts from people who were sending her messages, offering her words of comfort and sympathy. And she was really confused. Like, she didn't know why anyone felt like her marriage was in trouble. So now Robin and Paula were being asked about this in every interview, and they had to do even more work to clean up Robin's image. I don't follow Miley Cyrus a lot, but I know that she has kind of come out and said that a lot of the things that she was doing during this time were in response, firstly, to the relationship that she was in, and secondly, with her frustrations with Disney. She felt like she was just being messed up by everyone around her. And I honestly think that if Miley could go back and erase that performance, she would. The more popular the song became, the worse things got for Robin. Now the song was so huge, and its creators are just basically walking around saying that there's nothing wrong with the song. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Like, they genuinely couldn't tell why everyone was getting so worked up about it.
Well, what would that be?
Well, I mean, you know, who wrote I Know You Want It? Was that you?
Yeah, sure.
That was very criticised by many people who felt it.
It was.
It literally blurred the lines between a woman's right to say no and a man forcing himself.
I don't know where the forcing himself and a woman's right to say no was ever addressed in that song.
I know you want it. Isn't that it?
That's a man. Is that a man forcing himself on you?
Isn't it cajoling a woman?
Let me ask you a question. Women sing that song. So are women singing that to other women?
Maybe they just like the song, but I mean, you know,
Wait,
but the line,
the line. What does the line suggest? I know you want it.
which is a cajoling kind of thing.
Is it sexually suggestive when a car salesman says to a person who's trying to buy a car, "I know you want it"? I'm asking you.
But it's a phrase that's often used in a sexual context, isn't it?
Okay, cool.
I mean,
But so does that make it off limits for me to use it in a song, especially when the overall arching context is that there are good women who also have bad thoughts? So good women can't have sexual thoughts?
but the context.
I'm asking you.
You're asking. What's the question you're asking me? That you,
Can good women have sexual thoughts?
well, of course. But
So,
with respect.
but wait. So let me answer. If a good woman can have sexual thoughts, is it wrong for a man to have a correct guess that a woman might want something?
Well, I think you have to put this in the context.
And if she wants
of
it,
the
does
song.
that mean that he's going to take it?
I think you have to put this in the context of the song and of the video.
Oh,
Which,
okay.
as you know, was also very controversial.
Okay.
And, you know, I mean, you stood there with women.
You know I'm enjoying this,
topless.
right?
Yeah, no, well, good. I mean, so am I. I mean,
Okay.
look, you were standing there with women cavorting around you with no clothes on.
Right.
There was a power dynamic going on there, wasn't there? These women are there to please you.
Oh, they were?
Were they not?
Did I touch?
So that September, contributors towards Project Unbreakable, which is a photographic project dedicated to survivors, they held up place cards comparing the words that were spoken by their attackers to the lines from the song. Also in September, in the UK, Edinburgh University Students Association became the first student body to ban blurred lines. So they were saying that unless a woman is explicitly saying to you, "Yes, I want you," then you should not be saying any of the things that these guys are saying in this song. And now Robin had gone from being one of the most talented R&B vocalists in Hollywood to being one of the creepiest guys in Hollywood. So Robin had to go and do many interviews because everyone wanted to speak to him about what was going on with the song. And he did an interview with VH1 that he would definitely regret later.
One of my favorite songs of all time was Marvin Gaye's "Got to Give It Up." And so we tried to, get a little groove like that going.
So this caught the attention of Marvin Gaye's family, who got into contact with the three guys on the song. And they said, you guys used the song "Got to Give It Up" and you did this without speaking to us about it first. Or making any contact with us, actually. So that is copyright infringement. And we would like to sit down with you guys and come to some sort of a deal. I don't know if they actually did get to sit down in a room together at any point. What I do know is that they could not come to an agreement. And in response to this, Pharrell, Robin Thicke, and T.I. filed a lawsuit against Marvin Gaye's family and Marvin Gaye's record company, which is Bridgeford Music. And when I say Marvin's family, the people who are named in the lawsuit are his brother, Frankie Gaye, Marvin Gaye III, his son, and Nonna Mavisa Gaye, his daughter. So this was filed in August 2013. So this is in the midst of all the Miley Cyrus stuff. And so the Gays responded by suing them right back and added their record label Interscope Records to the lawsuit. So anyway, in April 2014, there was a deposition. So if you don't know, a deposition is kind of like a pre-trial that allows the representatives to kind of get a feel of the opposition and who and what they're going to be dealing with. And I just need to say, actually, before we move forward, that I am not a lawyer. I'm not a law student. I'm just someone who is very interested in law. And I was a media student when I went to university, and my closest friends all studied law. And I remember on a Friday, my thing was, when I had time in between my lectures, I'd just sneak into their classes and just sit in and listen to what sounded like really interesting, like riveting stuff. So anyway, my point is that if you are a legal expert and you think that there is something that I'm missing, or maybe if I'm incorrect, please feel free to jump in the comment section and let me know. But don't be irritating or smug about it, please. So anyway, going into this, Pharrell's argument is obviously going to be him saying that he came up with the beat of the song independently, like this was all his genius. And this was his deposition with the Gaye's legal team, where they were going to try and disprove what he was trying to say.
Have you studied, but you have not received any college formal education with respect to music, correct?
No, sir.
Okay. Can you read musical notation? Mm-hmm. You can? Mm-hmm. Is that a yes? You have to answer verbally?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you write in musical notation?
No.
Can you read pitches in musical notation?
No.
Go to page 9 of Ms. Fennell's report that I placed in front of you, please. Page 7, I'm sorry. Page 7, not 9. Mr. Williams, page 7, not 9.
Oh.
If you look on page 7, you're going to see a transcription, which are examples 2A and 2B. What are the names of those notes?
I'm not comfortable with this. I mean, I know every good boy does fine in the face, but
what is the duration of those notes?
I'm not comfortable.
So you can't answer the question.
I'm just not comfortable.
Okay. You have to answer my question. So with all due respect,
I'm giving you my answer.
Okay.
I'm not comfortable.
I'm not asking if you're comfortable or not. What I want to tell me is, can you tell me the names of those notes and the duration that are depicted on examples 2A and 2B? Mm-hmm. What are they?
I said I'm not comfortable, sir.
So does that mean you can't answer my question?
I can't answer you at this time.
Okay. Identify the names of the notes that are depicted on page 11, the charts represented on page 11.
I'm not comfortable.
Okay. Is that going to be your answer to any question that I ask you, if I were to ask you to identify names of notes?
I don't know.
I'm just asking you whether you can read notes. And you told me you could, and I'm asking you to identify the notes that are shown.
Right.
And you can't do it, can you?
I'm not comfortable.
Okay. And that's because you actually can't read musical notes, can you?
I'm not comfortable.
So what the lawyers are trying to do over here is prove that there is no way that Pharrell could have come up with the beat of the song when he doesn't even have the technical knowledge of music composition. It's a very, very sensitive subject because a lot of music producers will say that there's kind of like basic templates that you get for every genre of music, and people just stick to those templates. You don't really, that's not you copying. If I'm singing doo-wop in a doo-wop song, I'm not copying someone that did that in the, 19th century. But the Gaye's legal team is saying that Pharrell wouldn't even have the knowledge to even see that this is a template. What he's doing is picking up something that he heard from his memory, or something that he just straight up just like sat there and listened to and copied. So what they're saying is that Pharrell basically just has a really good ear for music, and it shouldn't be classed as him producing a song. It's him imitating a song. And also what this is saying to Marvin Gaye's family's legal team is that this absolutely needs to go to court. They shouldn't just settle on anything, because the fact that Pharrell, who is a multi-award-winning music producer, the fact that he can't read music, allegedly, is something that is going to make him look bad in court, and basically he'll already be at a disadvantage. And then we had Robin Thicke, and the opposition made their case against him based on the VH1 interview that he had, where he clearly said that I really like the song by Marvin Gaye called Got to Give It Up, and I wanted to make a song like it, and so we did. So when he was asked about this, the first response that he gave was this.
Do you make it a habit of being dishonest when you give interviews?
When I give interviews, I tell whatever I want to say to help sell records.
And then later that day, it seemed like he had come to the realization that not only had he admitted to copyright infringement back then, but now he's just like, I'm a liar. I just lie. So he came back, and this is what he had to say.
With all due respect, I was high and drunk every time I did an interview last year.
And Mr. Thicke, I do have to ask you, when you did the interview that we just played from VH1, were you drunk and on Vicodin?
I didn't do a single interview last year without being high on both.
Okay. So the answer to my question is yes.
Yes.
Were you drunk and on Vicodin when you did the Oprah show?
Yes.
Do you consider yourself an honest person?
And when this all came out, it was like, ah, that makes sense. He's been completely high and drunk this whole time. Yeah. Anyway, after a 7-day trial, the jury was in favor of the Gaye family. Pharrell and Robin were instructed to pay $7.4 million in damages, and this was later reduced to $5.3 million and 50% of any future royalties to the music. Pharrell was not happy with the outcome. He tried to appeal it. It did not work. And T.I. was actually ruled out for infringement because he was not there on the day that the song was created. So he didn't have to pay anyone anything. So Paula had been fiercely fighting in Robin's corner. It seemed like it didn't matter how many beatings their relationship took. It didn't matter how many times Robin made himself look bad. They were just rock solid. I mean, they've been together since 14, and they got married in June 11, 2005. They actually got married. And a little fun fact about their wedding is that Meghan Markle was the calligraphy specialist that designed their wedding invitations. Well, she wrote the wedding invitations, and they didn't actually go up to her and ask her to do it. Meghan Markle, was working for a company that specialized in stationery for weddings, and she was assigned to this wedding. So anyway, Paula gave birth to their son Julian on April 6, 2010. But in August 2013, after the VMAs, a picture was tweeted to Paula by someone, and the caption read, "Paula Patton XO, look at the reflection, girl." In the picture, you see Robin Thicke taking a picture with a very young female who we now know is a girl that was called Lara Scolaro. She came from a very wealthy family, was able to get into any party that she wanted to get into, backstage access, everything. She was there. So anyway, in the picture, we see Robin and the young female, and their backsides are reflected in a mirror. And if you look at that mirror, you can see Robin's hand is placed on her. No, I wouldn't even say it's on. If I look at this is in. It is in there. It's inside. It is inside. Yeah, that's in. This was apparently taken at a VMA after party, and Paula was absolutely humiliated by this. And it was pretty clear after this that the couple, they just weren't like growing in the same direction, which is a shame because they've been together for 20 years, and they had a 4-year-old son. That could not have been easy. So they announced their separation on February the 24th, 2014, after 21 years together. On October the 8th, 2014, Paula officially filed for divorce and joint custody of their son. This was happening right in the middle of the Marvin Gaye lawsuit, the women rights movements against his song. He was just going through the most. And Robin, during this time, decided to just really try and focus on winning Paula back. I mean, he literally wrote her a song, Win Her Back, which was in his album called Paula that was released on the 1st of July 2014. And everyone was just kind of like, no, we've given you too many chances, dude. You're out here, you're just being sloppy all over the place. Like, we've had enough. And his album was a complete flop. Like, nobody gave it the time of day. But then in late 2014, Robin meets April Love Gaye at a party. Now, the interesting thing about these two is that April was born in 1994, which makes her 18 years younger than Robin Thicke. So when she was born, Robin was already dating Paula. And at this point, she was 20 years old and he was 38. And then Robin found himself again on the receiving end of a backlash against misogyny. He's now just basically just going around doing a lot of things that are a bit questionable. I mean, for example, the whole thing with the picture and him sticking his hand up someone's ass in public while they're taking a picture. That's a control thing. I mean, the women that he is seeing are like half his age. So they are nowhere near as experienced as he is in life. I don't care what you say. I don't care how mature you say someone is. There is no way that you can tell me that a 20-year-old and a man who is almost in his 40s, that they're on the same wavelength. That's just, it can't. I mean, 20 years old, by the time she was 25, she was already a completely different person than the person that she was when she first met him. So in February 2018, they welcomed their first child, and in August, about 6 months later, they announced that they were expecting their second child, who was born in February 2019. They got engaged on Christmas Eve 2018, and then in December 2020, the couple announced the birth of their third child. So Robin had slowly started to accept that he just kind of needed to move on from that phase of his life, and he kind of needed a fresh start. And he'd been through quite a lot, but out of everything that he'd been through, the worst thing was yet to happen. On the 13th of December, Alan collapsed while playing ice hockey with his son Carter at Pickwick Gardens in Burbank, California. The manager of the ice rink said that he was talking and even joked to his son to take a photo while he was being wheeled out of a stretcher. But Alan died later that day of a type A aortic dissection at the Providence State Joseph Medical Center in Burbank at the age of 69. Robin wrote the following: "My father passed away today. He was the best man I ever knew, the best friend I ever had. Let's all rejoice and celebrate the joy he brought to every room he was in. We love you, Alan Thicke. Thank you for your love. Love, your grateful son." And Paula actually also wrote a very touching tribute to Alan. She said, "I knew Alan since I was 15 years old, and he had a tremendous effect on my life. I loved and respected him so much. So many great memories and laughs together. We will miss him so much. His grandson is quite sure he is still here with us in spirit." But then something really horrible must have gone on between Paula and Robin, because things just turned really sour between the two after that. It seems like the two couldn't come to an agreement over the custody of their son, and Paula was just like, she is done keeping Robin's secrets. So she did a tell-all interview with Harper's Bazaar, and she said, 1, Robin had been physical with her on multiple occasions. 2, the infidelity in their relationship was just like, it was next level. She had caught him with 2 women in their bed, apparently in 2013 when he was doing the Blurred Lines tour. I mean, he'd even apparently used this in an argument that he had with Paula. He said that he had a lot of unprotected sex with many women, and he just said this just to upset her. And thirdly, she feared for her son's safety. She didn't want him to be left alone with him because of all the drinking and the drugs and the physical. So she wanted to have sole custody. But at this point, Paula had a restraining order against Robin. He was allowed to see his son, but they would literally meet at a park. like not even meet. They had to have a representative that they had both agreed on to basically take the child from Paula, sit at the park with the child, wait for Robin to show up after Paula had left and after it had been a while since she'd left, and then Robin could take the child with him. That's how they did things. And I'm guessing that this representative was their nanny, because one day the nanny actually had Julian sitting in the car and she made this 911 call.
This child is literally begging for me and everyone to call 911. We need you guys to just intervene because we have a court order document that child does not want to go with his father. He doesn't have to go. We have a restraining order. The person is within distance of the restraining order. He's in violation of it currently. It is agreed upon that he will not come to the park until we are gone, and then he comes. He's 6 years old. And literally every time we have these visits, like the night before, or like the day of, he's crying, he's praying to the angels, he's trying to avoid this like the plague.
It was so messy, but I think that the two after this kind of just admitted that things were just really getting out of hand. So they reached a custody agreement, and things kind of, I think, got better for them after August 2017. And then in 2018, Robin was amongst the hundreds of thousands of people who lost their homes in the 3 wildfires of California. He said that he returned to his Malibu home that he shared with his girlfriend, only to discover that it had been reduced to charred debris. This was what Robin had to say about the situation. It's funny how you see in movies, you think that there'd be a doll left over or a book of course something, but it's just rumble. There's nothing left. And then in 2020, Andre Harrell passed away. I go into a little bit more detail about Andre, as I already mentioned in my P. Diddy videos, but this basically just left Robin absolutely heartbroken. He talks about Andre as a guy that really started this whole thing for him, that pushed him into stardom. And he also speaks about Andre like he was more than just a friend and a mentor to him. He was like his second father. And then on October the 3rd, 2021, Emily Ratajkowski, who was one of the models in the Blurred Lines music video, she gives us a little snippet of her memoir called My Body, and this was released here in England in the Sunday Times, and she recounts basically being sexually harassed by Robin Thicke during the filming of the music video Blurred Lines. She says, "Suddenly, out of nowhere, I felt the coolness and the foreignness of a stranger's hand cupping my bare breast from behind. I instinctively move away, looking back at Robin Thicke. He smiled a goofy grin and stumbled backward, his eyes concealed behind his sunglasses. My head turned to the darkness beyond the set. The director, Diane Martell's voice cracked as she yelled out to me, 'Are you okay?' The video director, Diane Martell, supported Emily by stating that she did yell at the singer, asking for an explanation and immediately shutting down the shoot, getting a sheepish apology from Robin as if he knew it was wrong without understanding how it might have felt for Emily. So people have come out, and there's actually been like a bit of support, quite a bit of support in the industry for Robin, because people just like, he's just a joker and he wouldn't do something like that with the intent of causing harm, that maybe it was just like him being caught in the moment and the whole video just like really getting him excited. And Robin hasn't come out and said a word about it. And so more people were coming out and saying like he probably doesn't even remember it, like he's not that kind of dude. And Robin blocked Emily on social media. He hasn't said a thing to her since any of this has come out. And Emily's come out and said, you know what, this is quite sad because everyone was actually having fun at the video shoots. But she did notice Robin's mood change a bit, and her interpretation of this is that it was supposed to be his moment, but he was sharing this moment with T.I. and Pharrell, and it just wasn't about him at all. And then she noticed that when this happened, when he touched her, he was pretty intoxicated, and it kind of soured the mood for everybody. Like nobody was enjoying themselves after that. And this is exactly what the feminist activists and the social rights groups were arguing about when this song first came out, when they saw it being glorified. There are people who are going to hear this song, men and women, by the way, and just sort of think that it's okay to cross that line, and they'll just kind of assume that, you know, that person has invited them to do it, when that person's mind or their thoughts were nowhere near that. So Emily, the model who was in the music video, who today can't even listen to the song, and she has verified that the song was 100% about the things that these activists and these groups were protesting about. So just going through all of this has made me realize how much has happened in the last decade. The thing is, all these people, they have all completely changed. Robin is now a fully devoted partner. I don't think him and April are married yet. And he's a father of 4, and that just seems to be his full-time job right now. He does seem like he still likes to have a good drink here and there. I mean, like pretty much everywhere I see him when he's having an interview, he's drinking. I mean, there was also this video where he was having a night out with April, and it sparked some concerns over him.
Take pictures of them grabbing me like that. That's awesome. Okay, go ahead. Stop. Stop, Robin. Stop. Leave me alone. Stop. Stop. Robin, they're taking pictures. You better stop. You better stop. Stormy, let's go. You better stop. Stormy, let's go. Take pictures, Robin. They're
One more time, Robert.
But with all of that being said, he has also managed to stay out of trouble. I think this is the longest he stayed out of trouble. And I really hope that he is like this really nice guy that some of the people that know him say he is. It's a shame because some of the things that you see about him in the media just kind of really paint him out as someone who can be a bit of a spoiled brat and a jerk. You've got Paula, who's now dating. I don't think it's anything serious. I think she's more focused on her career right now and her son. And I saw like this really cute video that she released. I think it was her birthday, and on the same day her son was performing with the school choir, and I think he takes the lead in singing. I think the song is Lean on Me, but anyway, it's so cute. He's got quite a voice on him, and she just seems like she's quite happy with her life. She's quite content at the moment. Pharrell, he has completely changed his opinion about the song Blurred Lines. Like, he says now that he completely understands why everyone felt offended by the song, and that he just wants to completely distance himself from it now. So, and with all that being said, we've reached the end of this video. I know this has been a bit shorter, but this is me just basically saying hi. I'm still here. I am working on 2 big videos that I'd like to get out before February, so I really have to actually go like right now. I really hope that you liked this one, and please like, please share, please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you on the next one, hopefully. Thank you.